Read the Quran with me. I want to show you something. I'm a Christian and I want to point out to you something that you probably haven't seen before.
I mean, I don't know where these people come from and where they come up with all these arguments, but they've already been refuted multiple times before.
It's found in Surah Al-Qasas, the 28th chapter of the Quran, where it talks about Moses' marriage. Moses is in Midian after fleeing from Egypt, and he sees a group of shepherds watering their flock, and then two women standing off to the side holding their herds back. Now, they say that it's because they're waiting for the shepherds to go away, but Moses goes in and does the work and waters their herds for them. Afterwards, after they leave, one of the two daughters comes back to Moses and says, "Hey, our father's inviting you to give you reward for what you've done for helping us out." And so he goes back to the father, and the father offers Moses, one of his two daughters, in return for working a 8-year work term for him. Turn with me to Genesis chapter 29, earlier on in the Torah, where it talks about Jacob's marriage. And this is where it gets really interesting, because in that story, Jacob's at a well where shepherds water their flocks, and he sees Rachel, one of two daughters in the story. There's a really heavy stone that usually several shepherds will lift, but Jacob goes, lifts it on his own, helps Rachel out with her flock, and then Laban offers Jacob to marry his daughter Rachel in return for a 7-year work term at Jacob's request. But the key thing is, the story of Moses' marriage and the story of Jacob's marriage are mixed together in the Quran.
Right, so the story of Moses in the Holy Quran versus the story of Jacob within Genesis. Let's have a look. There are major textual differences in both of these stories of Moses and Jacob, peace be upon them both. The Quran places the story of Moses in Midian or Madian and meeting of two women who were the daughters of Shoaib, or in your literature, Jethro. The Bible, it places Jacob and Rachel in the household of Laban, and these are different people, different families, different geographical contexts, and different outcomes as well. For example, there are different narratives within the story. Thirdly, different legal and contractual details. So for example, the Quran reports he was asked, "Do you want to work for Shoaib?" And then through that, a marriage proposal came about. The biblical account shows that Jacob didn't ask to work. He was told, "You have to serve 7 years. And which daughter do you want?" He says, "I want Rachel." So he works for 7 years, and then the deception follows. Laban deceives him and gives him his other daughter, Leah. And then he has to work for him another 7 years, and then he ends up marrying both sisters. The Quran says that Moses was asked to serve. Genesis says that Jacob said, "I will serve you for 7 years." For Rachel, after the 7 years was up, the father tricked him and gave him who? Gave him Leah after he had relations with her. Then he found out that it wasn't Rachel. Then Laban says to him, "Serve me another 7 years and I'll give you Rachel." So Jacob served 14 years and finally had Rachel. Rachel gave him no children. Leah gave him 4 sons. All of this that I just told you, none of this corroborates with the story of Moses, peace be upon him, in the Quran. There's no deception by the girl's father. There's no 2 sisters. There's no extra 7 years of service. There's no him marrying 2 sisters, nothing. So the stories are completely different. The only thing that they have in common is that they went to a well. So a well, as a meeting place, folklorists and biblical scholars point out that meeting at the well, it was a very common motive. And the well was a place of social gathering back then. And in ancient Eastern literature, this was a common meeting place and a multiple biblical betrothal scene. In fact, if you read the betrothal journey narratives by M.W. Martin, he cites over 27 different stories of people that met at a well and then ended up getting married. So the location being the same doesn't mean that the stories were copied.
This is a clear instance of Muhammad hearing stories verbally about the Torah, not being able to go and check himself because he was illiterate.
And also, just to let you know, our Prophet, peace be upon him and his family, was not illiterate. That's a Sunni belief.